Namaste, friends. Suswagatam, and welcome to our Sunday edition of Words of Wisdom, Gyan Ganga, on our social media channels of Virat Hindustan Sangam. We are today at episode number 205, and today's topic is India less united today? And we will be for the next 30 to 45 minutes discussing with Dr. Subramanian Swamy and our panel members Ramesh Swamy and Arvind Chaturvedi. As you all know, we are not only on YouTube or Facebook, but on various other channels, social media channels like Spaces and other podcast channels. So please watch out for our program on other platforms too. With this word, it is over to Dr. Subramanian Swamy to start the discussion. Is India less united today? Over to Dr. Swamy.
Thank you, Jagdish. The issue is not a new one. Whether India is less united today or not, it has been discussed many, many times. There was a myth also that the British had created, that they were a different people, and it's heterogeneous, and we are all kingdoms, so on. Then the liberal left and the leftists, they try to make out that we are really a confederation, we are not a federation, we are not even a unitary state, and all that. This is an ongoing debate. But there are some new things that have happened which makes me want to discuss this today in our Gyan Ganga. And that is, you see, I'll get into it step by step. Now, first of all, let me tell you, whichever Raja began as a regional Raja, he always ended up speaking about India as a whole. Shivaji is an example. Ahom dynasty in the northeast is an example. All over India, the Rajas maintained that we are Hindustan, we are in one India, Bharat, various names that have been given. So I'm not saying that we were never one, and this is something that has come after the British came, and which is of course the British nonsense that is put across, and people sometimes say it. But we are people who have been one people over centuries and centuries and centuries. Whether it's Mahabharat war, it was carried out in Kurukshetra, and whether it was Rama had to go to get his monkeys from this South India, and in South India everybody is educated, even monkeys were educated. So he took them along because that's the only people he could get, and but it was all. And then when he won the war, Rama, then Lakshman said to him, "Such a beautiful country, we have conquered it. We don't know how our brother Bharat is going to behave when we go back and ask him to give the kingdom back to you. So why not settle down here? Sita is also here." So Rama then gives a very famous shloka which is used everywhere in our scriptures and even in the Constitution of India, and that he says, whatever it is, motherland is the beauty, and that is where we belong. And so maybe Sri Lanka is a very beautiful place, but we have to go back. So this concept of India is a firm concept. It's not it's something the British gave to us, or the Muslims declared India as a Hindustan, which of course they couldn't say Sindustan. I mean, all nonsense. I mean, you can find descriptions of Hindustan in many of our scriptures. So therefore, today I begin with the background that there is a development which I need to bring to the notice of the country, that we should try to put an end to it. I don't think, frankly, and I don't know what my panelists think, I don't think that Modi has got the concept of unity of the country in mind, the way he has behaved with China. let them occupy 4,000 odd kilometers of square kilometers of our territory. He doesn't want to even mention the name. Even today, he has not mentioned the name of China having aggressed. And at the first opportunity, he wants to shake hands with them. The first opportunity, he wants to start the economic trade with them. So I don't think that Modi has got this patriotic mind of uniting India, how to make it more united, for which I have written books on it. And someday I will talk about that. But today I want to warn the nation that there is some slippage taking place which we need to deal with and see that it doesn't get out of hand, because there are international forces who would like to see India break up. So the first thing I would like to say is, one index I took is how many people are leaving India and taking citizenship in the United States or Europe and other places. Now, there's nothing wrong with the Indians going and getting a better life, and and then sending their money to India in a big way. In fact, the money that comes from abroad is a huge help to us in our national foreign exchange. So I'm not talking about that, but the numbers is increasing. In 2020, the number of people who went and took citizenship abroad was 85,256. By 2022, it had grown to 2,25,620. And I'm told is going to continue, judging by the applications for citizenship and passports and so on. There's indication that this number is going to. And in the United States, they find the Indians the best immigrants that one can have in the present circumstances. Highly educated, very fast in the uptake. They're all modern technologies. They're far ahead. And so there's a big pressure for the quota for Indians to become citizens. I'm sure Ramesh will be able to tell us more about whether that is going to happen or is happening or even being thought to happen. So I'm saying that you look at the statistics. It was only 16,000. No, it was. Yes, it is now. I'm just sorry to say it's much more than in 2011, and today it is, as I said, it's 2,25,620, and that is people who are becoming citizens. So this is one index which why are people not staying in India in a large numbers? And I have no objection to people going. My own son-in-law and daughter have settled in Boston. So I'm not critical of the people who do that. But why is there no movement as time has passed? India is becoming a better country. It's become a much more economically developed country. There are more things that we have done, like discovering software, and there's no end to the reasons why Indians should stay in India. So therefore, and I'm not giving a lecture because I left America and came to India. I was a Harvard professor. I could have stayed there. I could have done all the grand research which my teachers like Paul Samuelson and Simon Kuznets wanted me to do, but I gave it all up and came to India. So I'm not a person who's sort of disparaging people who are going abroad, but I'm saying that this number seems to be galloping. And I'm told that industrialists are also now creating a base in Europe and the United States. And a lot of so now, who's behind this, and why is this? What is wrong? Why are the people doing this? And these are well-to-do people. These are not people who are going to Trinidad to be laborers or Africa. These are people who can contribute enormously within India, and they're contributing enormously in the foreign countries they're going. So this is one point which I think you need to explain. Why is the number galloping? of those who are taking citizenship. I'm not talking about people going green card and so on and so forth. I'm talking about people who are taking citizenship. The second thing is within our country, we find um, a lot of animosities between groups and killings going on. Of course, there is this Hindu Muslim issue that is being raised and partly being fanned from abroad from the Muslim side. And then in our own country, there are people who want to give a light fire in this so that the main uh, main what we are planning to do in terms of renaissance in our Hindu religion, we are not able to do because we say, oh, this is something that will create divisions and so on. So one is that, and that starts with language. You see, you have the same people in Manipur, but they have different names, they have different languages, and language has become a factor. And religions also, of course, become a big factor. So therefore, why does this has this flared up? It never didn't flare up for the last 30 years, and suddenly it starts flaring up. Yes, Nagaland was a problem, but Nagaland then threw in their weapons, and they are in Nagaland, at least at the moment, they are in peaceful. And then, of course, the Hindu Christian, Hindu Sikhs. I mean, that was Mrs. Gandhi who started it all with Operation Blue Star, which is a Soviet Union directed conspiracy against the Sikhs, and it was all cooked up. Bhindranwala was made into a demon who wants to separate India and Khalistan and so on. All this thing. But I know for a fact because I stayed there. I spent at times inside the Golden Temple. I had long discussions with Bhindranwala. Nothing of the kind. In fact, on the contrary, he was advocating his speeches about purity, about misbehavior to be ended. He fought against dowry. I knew him from close quarters. I attended his meetings, everything, and we had our media going strong. Some of these criminals were like today who are pontificating like. Well, I don't want to name them. They are today running their own websites and so on. They were putting out all rubbish from all untrue. That they had weapons inside and they had made a large number of women pregnant. So on. So it created a division, and it's still not gone because we haven't properly addressed it. Rajiv Gandhi did something when he agreed to an election, and then he lost the election, and Longewal came to power, the Akalis came to power, but then they also become, I think. So language is a big factor. Religion has become a very big factor. I'm not sure that in parts, for example, in Tamil Nadu, it's a targeting of particularly the so-called Brahmin movement. Of course, Brahmin community. But of course, I don't believe that anyone is born a Brahmin or a Kshatriya or anything. As Lord Krishna says very clearly, these are gunas. You have these gunas, then you become that. Vishwamitra was born in a Kshatriya family, but he became Maharishi. Vedvyasa was born with a fisherwoman, through a fisherwoman, and he became another. So there is no Valmiki. He was in fact a Dalit, you see, and he became one of the biggest Maharishis we had. So all these things are now solidifying, and instead of all this 60, 70 years that we have been independent, we should have used the science. Science says that DNA of all Indians is the same. All Indians, Hindu, Muslims, Christians, everybody. DNA is the same. Of course, there are some differences in the extreme northeast, but that is only in terms of degrees and not in kind. So therefore, we are one people. All this Aryan, Dravidian, Bakwas, which is being taught in our school thing to divide us, is still continuing. We still haven't been able to create a new textbook, and we have driven away people like Rajiv Malhotra, who can write a new textbook, I think, in 1 month's time. And these people, after 10 years, have not still been able to uh, bring out a textbook which gives you the correct history. We are one people. We have fought always for Hindustan, whether it was Shivaji fighting, whether it's Cholas fighting, whether it's Pandyans fighting. A variety go across the thing. The Hindustan concept was there with all of them. So, but that seems to have gone now. We are finding daily some community being alienated. No, I don't say that only Hindus are divided. After all, now there's a lot of division between the Shias and the Sunnis, and of course the other sects also. And we have to keep that in mind. Who's doing this? I have a feeling that many of these things are being fanned by countries, but principally today, the country that is fanning it is China. It has decided that India should be disintegrated. And in that, I find something very weird that Chinese entered India. They crossed a line which Narasimha Rao had worked out with the then Chinese leadership, which is called the line of actual control, where we conceded for the time being Aksai Chin and all these will be part of China. And we would had the all of Ladakh, and the Chinese violated that, crossed across, have occupied 4,064 square kilometers of Indian territory, which was never disputed territory. And our government is not willing to even name the Chinese. They are not saying the Chinese has aggressed. Nowhere we see that. On the contrary, we want to embrace them, shake their hands. And now it comes out that Mr. Modi has agreed with the Chinese that he will not make the occupation of China into Indian territory since 2020 an issue anymore. It will be kept in, as if the Chinese are indeed the masters of that property. I can't believe this, that Mr. Modi, who talked of breathe fire earlier, is now surrendering to China on almost every issue. Every issue is surrendering to China. And I think this requires a great deal of investigation. I also find that in the division of votes, we are not becoming fewer and fewer parties. Today the opposition has 26 parties and BJP has 34 parties. What is the meaning of this? Why should we even promote it? Wipe them out. BJP should fight all the seats, whether they win, lose their deposit, whatever, but they must fight all the seats and is capable of doing it given the RSS manpower that we have for free, which these people, these Swayamsevaks work, they sit in the booths, they don't get anything from the party. So is there a hope? First of all, do you agree that this is a matter that is serious, has to be addressed? Now we must start working how to make India a more united country and how to fight all the disparaging forces. This we have to do, but we also have to see that some things must happen, and we can do it in a number of ways. For instance, Hindi with the Sanskrit words is there in the Constitution. You go to the Constitution, they say Hindi should be the link language, and of course, till that time it happens, English will also continue. And English is now an international language, it's no more an English language. It's an international language, and the vocabulary and all things, the Americans have made a big change. Even in spelling, they have made big change. So I consider English as an international language, which we should learn. We should have your own mother tongue, we should learn. And we must learn Sanskritized Hindi, which will go on getting Sanskritized till it becomes Sanskrit. Because now we are told that artificial intelligence in the future, when we start feeding orally words, or we start by sending in written material to the computer, it has to be in Sanskrit. I don't have to tell you this. You can go and check with the. You can check with with the Google to find whether for artificial intelligence you need Sanskrit. They'll give you the whole thing. There are schools in England, St. James School, one of the top schools, where they are insisting, where the principal is insisting and explaining why that children of the ages of 6 to 11, they must recite Sanskrit shlokas for half an hour every day. And this time when Charles was being coronated, the delegation from that school came and recited Sanskrit shlokas in his getting the crown put on his head. At that time, they recited Sanskrit slokas. Now, Sanskrit is now being recognized as the language for artificial intelligence, future computers, and so on. So it is something that we should now make it compulsory. And you need not make it compulsory by foisting it, but you can start saying that Hindi vocabulary will be more and more borrowed from Sanskrit, which is there in the Constitution. So that is something which I think we need to do. I don't, of course, I'm not alarmed by this thing as my last word before handing it over to you. I'm not alarmed, but I'm cautious. I don't want it to happen, and therefore nip it in the bud. But I have confidence that Churchill had predicted India will crack up in 3 years. It didn't happen. Nixon came, I think, in 1964-65 and said India deserves to become 20 countries. It's not a natural country. And it's Nixon who went out in a scandal later on, the Watergate. But the fact is that all these predictions are nonsense. It was Chinese who thought that if they give us a whack in 1962, we'll crack up. Now they are much more smart. They are going in slowly. They are capturing our politicians and making them complicit. I wouldn't say pro-China is all right. It's an ideology, but it's the complicity in their trying to harm India that worries me most about our politicians today. So my view is that, judging by the past, India will have some upheaval. Emergency was an example. People had given up all hopes. Indira Gandhi also decided to have elections, saying all these people are all cracked up. And suddenly the masses arose, and not the educated people. No? The educated people, highest proportion of educated people is in South India, the 4 states of South India. They all voted for Indira Gandhi. But this illiterate UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana, Himachal, they voted wholesale to defeat Mrs. Gandhi, including her and her son in their own constituency. That's how democracy came back. So that's the ancient culture of India, which is represented unless it is washed out by westernization and Western education and Western thinking. So I have no doubt in my mind that this country will not disunite. But why should we go through the process of undoing a disunited movement? We should ensure that we get more and more and more united and develop languages which we understand in every part of India. Like that, especially since we are all one DNA, it should not be difficult. So that's the reason why I'm saying that we have to get alert. I don't think the Prime Minister is doing that. He's not uniting people. Every day he's selecting some group and saying, oh, I'm going to give you this so that you can vote for me. Now, I think this is not a desirable approach to politics in India. And therefore, we should start a movement that India being one is something that is a minimum for all of us in our anywhere. Thank you very much, and over to Jagdish.
Dr. Swamy, the increasing uh, flourishing of some of the regional parties, do
Yeah.
you think it is a threat to our national united India, having regional parties and not nationalistic parties in the country?
No, these regional parties are promoted by our national parties by having alliances with them. Don't have alliances with them. You can later on form a government of khichdi in the center. It may last long or not long, but when you fight the national parties, of which principally there are two only, BJP and Congress, these must resolve in the larger interest, in the patriotic interest, to contest all the seats, and certainly not help any regional party to come up. That's the only way. But if you go on making adjustments, then regional parties will strengthen, and then they take over. Congress made the biggest mistake of having an alliance with DMK, and DMK had a cadre. Congress didn't have a cadre. And see where is Congress today in Tamil Nadu? And DMK and ADMK, they are the only two parties. If there's an alternative to DMK, it is ADMK. If there's an alternative to DMK, it's DMK. ADMK, then DMK is the alternative. I mean, Tamil Nadu was abandoned by all these so-called nationalist-minded people, or people who identified themselves with the whole country, by surrendering to these regional parties for mere election.
Arvind, you want to take the next question? Your mic is off, Arvind.
Yeah, Dr. Swamy, you mentioned several factors which divide India. From the 50s or 60s, we thought as the education improves, then the illiteracy goes and people become literate. The narrow-mindedness of the citizens will also go away, and some factors which are because of the illiteracy, people are have a hatred for each other. Those factors will disappear. Especially, we had some religious divide at the time of partition, and over the period of time, it was thought that as Muslims prosper and as Muslims get educated, this angle of hatred towards Hindus will disappear. Actually, now, 60s onwards, I have been observing there has been right-wing political parties. Earlier, Hindu Mahasabha, then Bharatiya Jansangh, and then the new avatar of Bharatiya Janata Party. Till today, the success of BJP can be attributed to a hatred towards one particular section of the population. Election after election, and several studies have been done on this. And there is plenty of evidence available to prove that not one state or not one district, even if they go for the municipal corporation election and all that, this party looks for issues where the larger vote bank of Hindus can be united by creating or identifying objects of hatred towards the other section. Now, I think this is the one major factor. And of course, we can have many other things, like we say caste also divides at the regional level. You have the, say, for example, in Western UP, you have the Jats and Muslims on one side and non-Jats on the other side. So whosoever wins the confidence of one particular section, the other section gets into minority. Then you have the language factor. I mean, for example, Karnataka and Maharashtra. I mean, we say geographic, but it's also a language factor. Konkan area and other issues like we have. So the language factor is also there. Then you have of course, the old age. You can say the rich and poor. Rich and poor divide, whether it is So we cannot say the rich and poor divide is getting over day by day, because the disparity is widening over a period of time, despite of the fact that for last 30 years we have had economic reforms, and even the economic reforms which have done wonders to the Indian economy, but have also created the divide which is larger as compared to what we had earlier. So these are the also issues other than the conventional issues which divide people. So over a period of time, I think the feeling of aloofness, or feeling of let's say the people are getting bound in one particular section, and the other section which they do not belong to, that becomes the target of hate.
Well, you have a very good point. The issue is this. Um, we have, as a people, demonstrated in key occasions that we are one people. 1962, I mean, nobody could believe the kind of feeling that was generated. Women were taking their gold, the Mangal Sutra and putting it in the bucket, saying that if you don't have money, sell my gold. I mean, the Chinese themselves, when they were on very good terms with me, were very frank and told me that they were surprised because they were told that the day the Chinese attack, and the country will just break up. It didn't happen. And then the emergency. Again, the people came together. May not be regionally proportionate, but they did come together. They did defeat the person in power who used every method to rig the election and failed. So I think the people have been tested enough. The question is to keep that focus. We don't need a crisis to prove that we are one people. We need on a daily basis. I don't think of myself that in caste terms. I don't think of myself in jati terms. I don't think of the varna terms. As far as you're as a Hindu. Muslims, again, you see, my view is that we divided the country into two parts, a Muslim Pakistan and a Hindu India. And Ambedkar says this. I mean, I'm going entirely by what Ambedkar has written. And Ambedkar went to the extreme of saying that we should, exchange population, and all the Muslims should be just put in trucks and sent to Pakistan, and all the Hindus should be brought here. But I'm not that. It's too late. It's all over. Now we are all one people. But then there should be the distinction part, you see, that is growing. Muslims dress like Muslims. I'm not talking about the religious part, but and then to say that this 3 children or 4 children, 4 wives business, this talaq, three times business. All these we have tolerated all this time to develop a feeling that if you are a minority, you can get what you want, and especially the conservatives, they have been doing that. So we need, therefore, a more enlightened thing, not to pander to it so that you get their vote. We are today doing that. We are doing that with Arab countries, trying to see that Mrs. Gandhi also did this, trying to see that they influence the local voters here. So I think what you are saying is something which is has to be addressed. But I would say, if in this country you scratch the Indian people, they will be very happy to become one. And so we have to find ways and means of putting the correct history. For example, this Aryan Dravidian nonsense, it should have gone long time ago from the thing. It's a total manufacture. Yes, there is a word called Dravidian, but that was Adi Shankara's word for South India, which is explained as Dravid. You see, Dravid became Dravid, and so on. And there is no concept that a Brahmin is the apex of the society. The Brahmin, in fact, that didn't have money, he didn't have weapons, but he had knowledge. But it was for that he was not in a Western society. If you don't have money and you don't have position, then just by being a great scholar, you will have no status. But in India, we have elevated that to a very high. So all these values systems have to be brought, and I am shocked to say that BJP was never meant to be a party which appeased anybody. And I know it from the Johnson days. I know that even today the RSS does not, as far as the Hindus are concerned, make any distinction in their organization. But unfortunately, we have been swinging. Either there's a riot or there's an appeasement. We are going in that kind of yo-yo, and that is what is causing. I am telling you, may not be in the newspapers today that we are having difficulty maintaining our unity. I'm not saying that we are there's a situation where it might happen. I'm not of that view, but I do believe that we are not be able to use our energies because we are spending so much time on all these divisions. Perhaps the person who started it all in a big way was VP Singh when he brought this reservation, which had no basis in the constitution. Yes, backward persons or backward communities was never mentioned. It was backwardness which was to be addressed, and that could be for any person in India. But he made it into a kind of a caste this thing, and now this has become a rigid hold, which has caused a great deal of division. These are the things that we have to overcome, and it has to be done by propaganda. It has to be done by discussion, by enforcing. If BJP were to take that position that we are all one, I'm telling you, in BJP inside also now this process has begun to avoid Brahmins and Kshatriyas from any position, and it will destroy BJP. And I think we have to take very quick notice of this, because it's the only party which try to unite everybody on the basis of Hindu. But if you agree to divisions in Hindu, then you can not unite. And the BJP as an ideology is the ideology of Hindutva would disappear. Yes, sir.
I have a
Ramesh?
question. Yeah, Dr. Swamy, we discussed, even though is India less united today, we discussed all the things that are dividing India, be it caste, religion, language, economic status, this and that. So, give me one example of what is uniting India today. I mean, you did say that when a crisis comes, India comes together. But without a crisis, if you have to take today and say what is uniting India today, if there is one fabric or one thread that we can say, what is that one thread?
No, you see, if you have this satisfaction that in a crisis India will not fall apart, then I am not in a panic about our divisions. The problem is that today merit suffers because I'm not talking about the reservations. I'm talking about on everything, in an office, in politics, and so on. There is an attempt to say this caste, and this caste will be premier, but not this caste and this caste and that. I mean, I shouldn't say caste; I should say varna. Varna caste is only a subdivision of a varna. So therefore, that is what is sinister. If the Prime Minister says that privately or otherwise that Brahmins are dangerous, and his behavior towards some of his Brahmin colleagues in Gujarat is a should be a reminder for all of us.
Hmm.
And I think the same thing is of course, in Congress one can understand because they're rootless leaders. Sonia Gandhi is an Italian. Rahul Gandhi has been brought up as an Italian, and and Priyanka is married to a Christian family. So therefore, the Congress is not the force that can bring us together. In fact, Congress is been who started the whole thing about how to bring this person in. If we had, for example, brought Ambedkar and Patel as in the premier in the top positions along with Rajendra Prasad, then this Nehru elitism would not have come. And from that, Ram Manohar Lohiya built up a alternative. That, how do you deal with this upper caste cartel? And so then he brought in this backward class. I think it was Ram Manohar Lohiya who did it. So I am today saying only one thing to you. What is there? As I am only saying that the foundation is still strong, but we can't take it for granted. But it's still strong. It has several times demonstrated it is there and it's strong. But what we have to do is build on it, and there is plenty of unity that goes along. Indians meet abroad. We are all together. We don't really divide ourselves into, except for functions and observations on religious occasions. But otherwise, Indians everywhere abroad, they are together. But that's not enough. We need a identity, and that identity is something which should be strong enough to come together without allowing others to. This whole scheduled caste thing has gone completely out of control, and they are being now managed by foreigners in many ways to debunk the idea of one India also.
Dr. Swamy, a couple of points based on what you just said. I mean, there is a very famous adage that says unity in diversity, but unfortunately, the political class in India are doing disunity with the diversity because they don't want the
Yeah.
various facets that divide India in terms of thing. So that's what I'm trying to say. So I think there is they are trying to do the disunity because that's what they get their votes. So divide the upper caste versus lower caste. You're Tamil, you're not Tamil. I mean, every state and everything, they're dividing this country by either all nonsensical, but in core, they still use this as a fabric. But earlier, even in the past, let's say, for example, patriotism was one of the very important glue that united this country. Today, we're just seeing division after division, and even the state government says you just say something against somebody, they immediately file a case against the SCHC Atrocities Act. Nonsensical things like these are only dividing the country further. Leave alone the fact that the current government is oblivious to the fact or completely ignoring the threat from the outside on their borders, be it China on the north and thing, south, people from Bangladesh or people from all the way Myanmar just walking in. They're creating the disunity in the northeast, be it, and they're spreading all across. First of all, India per se, the government today is not united in the sense they are not coming together and to say, okay, what do we do as a country to go forward? In a if you look at America, Dr. Swamy, even today, what unites the US is basically two things: God and patriotism. I'm telling you today because what I know of my interaction in this country, we might have 100 differences. We express our differences openly, and we don't immediately kill each other for saying that, okay, there are differences with this, because there is openness. When we have freedom of speech, we are openly debating each other. It's fine. We don't have to agree, but I will express what I want to express, and let's go move on. That open expression is completely missing, Doctor. So I think it's one of the important factors that in India, an open expression of thoughts. So what is wrong? For example, one of the guys in Twitter expressed something that he read in a book. Savitri Phule. So now the deputy chief minister of a state government, Fadnavis, says he should be hanged in the streets. is this the kind of language that you're going to keep? Is this the words, line of language you use, whatever that person has done, right? The first thing you just call Samadhana Bedadan. So why don't you say, hey, okay, what was the context? Have a forum. Again, what is he using? He's using this as a context in the assembly, saying that this guy has to be publicly hanged. This is
Yeah.
only if the leaders are not responsible, say we are going to unite India, and they just want to foment some hate or the other, because that is one thing that all politicians do, irrespective of the party, and BJP of late doing even more, is it is just, there is no way, they're not giving unity a chance, Dr. Swamy. That's what I feel. Even though inherently, as you say, it exists in India, the politicians of today are not giving the unity a chance to bind. It's not, they're not giving it time to bind.
Yes, I agree that, but the thing is, um, Hindus are 80%, but nobody's interested in uniting them, because the Hindus are people who raise many questions, whereas the minorities, they vote as a bloc. So the idea that originally developed, and it became successful till, of course, Mr. Vajpayee became flabby. The rise of the BJP was a possibility of unity in India. And Hindus have a long history of not persecuting their minorities. For example, the Parsis, the Jews, they only sing our praises of Hindus, of how they looked after them. In fact, the British asked the Parsis, would you like us to give a reservation for you like we have given the Anglo-Indians? They said, they are the ones who protected us for 1,000 years, and you're asking us, you better go, we don't need you. So they except the Christians and Muslims, the factor is there that they came here as conquerors, and they looted this place, they rubbished this place, so they did so many other things. They didn't blend with this place. So that's how it is there now. But I would say the unity, I would rather work about the unity, and all the other groups which, let me be specific, Hindus and the Muslims and the Christians, we should allow them to have their own pace to mingle and merge with us and accept our culture. There are a lot of people who accept our culture also. But the division that has come with especially after the VP Singh's tenure, has made it almost impossible for other castes who are smaller in numbers to get, say, admission to college. The only complaint I hear from young children, young students, is we are not able to get into IITs, or we are not, because this proportion, that proportion has been reserved, and we have to compete amongst ourselves, and that we are not able to get because of reservation. There's an undercurrent of hatred for reservation, because people don't understand why reservations became necessary. But what was done of backward classes, that in my opinion was something that was not required, but Mr. VP Singh did it. The constitution only said backward classes. It never said backward castes. But the whole operation has been on backward castes. There are a large number of poor Brahmins who are really backward classes. They are not backward castes, but they are backward classes. Mm-hmm. So these distinctions have had they been made, we would have been a much more united society. And
thank you, sir.
Dr. Swamy, I would just support the point initially raised by Jagdish. As far as the regional political parties are concerned, that they have a very significant role, I think, in not keeping India united to the extent that we want. For example, if you look at the political slogans raised by these political parties, which are the regional political parties, starting with, let's say, Mamata Banerjee, she started with Ma Mati Manush, and Ma Mati Manush actually was a regional slogan given to the people of Bengal. Coming to the N.T. Ramarao in the 80s, when he started his party called Telugu Desam, he had raised this issue of Telugu Bidda. Telugu Bidda was the issue which hurt the feelings of the Telugu people, and they united behind NTR and gave Telugu Desam a mandate. You go by Karnataka, they are still raising the issue, Namma Karnataka, or whatever you have. DMK, you know how parochial the DMK party is. And even in the West, Maharashtra, you have people like Raj Thakre with Amcha Marathi Manush and all that. There's such narrow regional feelings all over the border state, and all the regional parties which have had a prominent place in Indian politics, they have come up only because of hatred or self pride of the particular state, particular caste, or particular group. So I think this also has had some impact on
Yeah.
not keeping people united.
No, I fully agree with you, and I think these are things some of that should be now dealt with people who are in the political sphere. But if the people in the political spheres have come up by this, they are not going to deal with it. So we need motivation to see that people come and challenge this and say this is not the way. You concentrate on foreign policy, concentrate on economic policy, you concentrate on we need to give a minimum standard of living. These are things which unite the people, you see, and so that it's all now changed. It's all now backward class. In a political party, I think there are a number of the top two or top three varnas feel literally out of place because of this vicious attempt by the people who are claimed to be backward classes, but they are better off than the people in the upper classes.
Dr. Swamy, one more issue. This nonsense of this caste has permeated even America. The caste in Oregon and in California, the morons, the political morons in the state assembly are putting. I'm just being openly blunt about the stupidity this country has. This country in the US, there in the Constitution, there is no word, or even in the law, it's called caste. But these idiots in the local assembly are bringing in measures to call it caste-based discrimination should be abolished. First of all, there is no word called caste at all in an American Constitution. They are bringing this nonsense that was in India is being spread all over, and now it's affecting the US as well. It's very sad, Dr. Swamy, because the way these people, they're using the same tactics for what? The reason, Dr. Swamy, in the latest survey, the Indian American community is the second most influential political community in this country today. You know
Yes.
what binds the Indian community together? Hindutva. That is the survey. This is a Carnegie endowment survey. I've sent it to you by email. They are saying what binds the Indian community together. 42% of the Indians say they go to the temple or do prayers some way or the other. There is the glue. So they don't want to destroy this glue and bringing all these nonsensical things saying upper and lower caste. There is no upper and lower caste. What is that? There is no such distinction in America at all, leave alone anything else. They want to bring nonsensical statements like this, or Hindus in name only politicians like Pramila Jayapal and all other bunch of idiots. They want to divide not only America but also foment hate. So this fomenting hate has become a universal formula, be it India or America, and that's exactly what is not allowing the unity to happen. Hate based, as I said, in Tamil Nadu we have like you want that guy. Ironically, his name is Rajiv Gandhi. He's saying he fomented hate against Brahmins. What is there? Why are the people why are these Dravidian so-called Dravidian parties afraid of 1% or 1.5% of the population? How are they impacting you? Instead of saying, okay, let's work together to unite and work together. The same Dravidian parties and say, hey, I don't care whether you're a Brahmin, not Brahmin, whatever caste you are, whatever creed you are, whatever religion you are, let's work together for a better state. No. They want to use this in saying, okay, attack Modi, so best to attack Modi is attack Brahmins. These kind of formulas are not in the best interest of the country, Doctor, because India, as you said, is already a third largest economy on PPP basis. We will become number one if we do unite together, and that's not happening, and they don't want that to happen. Some form, shape, or the other, we are continuing to keep ourselves divided. I think politically, it's not just only one party, Dr. Swamy, including BJP. Like what happened 2 days before by what Devendra Fadnavis said in the assembly, which is shameful, say the least, is to keep dividing and keep the people divided so that they don't unite. Once you unite, as you said, what was the rallying cause after emergency? There was one united thought among the people in the country. Leave the South alone. There was a one united thought saying that this woman is evil. We should get rid of her, irrespective of whether they're educated or not educated in the North. That rallying cry, we need that kind of a thing. In my view, Dr. Swamy, there are only two identities that would bring UCC, obviously, in some form, shape, or the other. I don't think it's going to happen. Modi does not have the guts to bring it to the parliament. He will not do it. He's just a pole plank. And number two, Dr. Swamy, doing Hindutva right. And once we do that, these two, this is my personal view, Dr. Swamy, bring these two together and show the people that we are one. It'll automatically, as you said, the Muslims and Christians, they 90%, 95% of them, they don't care whether they're Muslim or Christian. They feel themselves of Indian. It's just that we need to bring that and exclude the 5% and push them away and saying that we don't need you. We're focused on the 90 that are ready to be as one country. We need a leader, Dr. Swamy, and I don't think there's anybody other than you to do that. Sadly, in this country, we have people who are continuously, I mean, if a guy can wait, if the prime minister of this country and the chief minister of a state can wait 45 to 60 days for nonsense in Manipur to happen, then suddenly give crocodile tears, what more can he say? So what does that say? He says the prime minister and the chief minister of the state do not want that state to unite. If they wanted to unite the Métis and Kukis or whatever the communities, so many communities in that state, they would have done that. They've still not done it. And that's the shameful part.
Yes, I think
Arvind can wind up.
I think it is unfortunate, Ramesh, the factors that you have raised and of what Dr. Swamy had talked about in the beginning, and all these factors which have somewhere a dent on the unity of the country, and this should be nipped in the bud, but unfortunately it's not happening because political parties are not in the interest of it happening. I mean, you talk about regional politicians, people have been commenting on our discussion also, and if you look at those comments, we'll identify the rise of one particular family is basically because of vote bank of that caste. So caste is one of the reason. Religion, of course, as I've highlighted, is one of the reason. And there's a couplet I would say कि तमाम काम सलीके से बांट रखे हैं, ये लोग आग लगाएंगे और ये हवा देंगे. एक तरफ आग लगाने वाले लोग हैं और दूसरी तरफ हवा देने वाले लोग हैं. And who is the victim? Victim is the country. Victim is the common man. Who lives if India dies? I think that is the question. We should, on this note, thank Dr. Swamy for raising this issue. And Ramesh, what you said in the passing, that there has to be one statesman who can unite this country and take this country forward in all dimensions. And we know the answer, and you already mentioned Dr. Swamy, but unfortunately we have to wait till this time comes, and let's wait what happens in the next few months on the political arena. We hope something which will be good for the country. Thank you, Dish. Thank you, Ramesh Swamy. The technical team headed by Ashish Shetty, Gadgi Rakesh, Ishwar Iyer, Swaminathan, Tejas Navalgul, Vishal Mehta, Najesh Nair. Like the question of United India, we'll be continuing to discuss these kind of topics towards Sunday after Sunday. Next Sunday in 206th episode, we'll meet again. Till then, Namaskar, Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.